Well, good afternoon, and it's my pleasure to be here. I appreciate the invitation, and my name is Richard Wiles. I'm the County Sheriff. For those of you who don't know a lot about me, let me just tell you that I have about 31 years of law enforcement experience here in El Paso. I was a member of the El Paso Police Department for 26 years, retiring as the Chief of Police in December of 2007, ran for sheriff and was elected in 08 and took office January of 09. That's where I've been since. And I truly love my job, and I love this city because it's such a great city with a lot of potential, and we can see it moving forward today, and I'm just happy to be a part of that. I don't do any skateboard tricks. The best I can do for you is I can go to the beer fest, make a couple beers disappear. I'm good at that. And then, of course, they were worried about me even showing up. I was talking to Chris, one of the organizers this morning, told him my dog wasn't doing well. He's cross-eyed. You know, I took him to the vet. The vet picks him up and looks at the dog and says, "I'm going to have to put it down." And I'm like, my God, he's just cross-eyed. He goes, no, I'm putting him down because he's heavy, not because he's cross-eyed. Anyway, so I want to talk to you about a subject matter I think that's important here in our community. It's about border security, and it's about people in Washington, D.C., who many of them know very little about the border, yet are trying to pass laws that are going to affect you and I. And some of those laws are very costly to all of us. And let me just say that border security is a federal issue. That cost should be borne by all the taxpayers in the nation, not just by taxpayers of those communities that live along the border like El Paso. We're a relatively poor community, and our tax dollars, especially for law enforcement, should be spent providing safety and security in our neighborhoods. And it's up to the federal government to deal with the issues of maintaining the borders. All right. So El Paso's had a rich history. And I can't go back as far as it does, but in the 1960s, a quiet and peaceful place. Many people can recall, as a matter of fact, you heard Mr. Wright talk about going to Juarez and enjoying his younger years there. In 1980s, we started to see the maquiladora industry, and then unfortunately, in the 1990s and to 2000s, we saw a shift of the smuggling, the narcotic smuggling corridors, and one of the main ones is right here in El Paso. El Paso is a major drug smuggling corridor from south to north. Money and weapons go north to south. And that's because of the efforts, by the way, if you'll recall years ago, a lot of drugs was coming through Florida, and the U.S. did a really good job of shutting that down, so it moved. And then you'll recall, unfortunately, in 2006, there was a fight between cartels for control of this drug smuggling corridor that caused violence to escalate tremendously. And unfortunately, that really impacted a lot of our bicultural, bi-national experience, because many people don't go to Juarez anymore from El Paso. By the way, an interesting thing, this PowerPoint was actually put together by somebody in this room. Where's Luis at? Right there. He was an intern in the sheriff's office. He's a UTEP student, and he did this for me last summer. Thank you, Luis. What a coincidence, huh? We did change a few things. We took your name off of it, and I'm taking credit for it now. It's all mine. All right. So while violence continues in Juarez, certainly not as it was a year or two ago, it's slowed down. El Paso is a very safe place, and there's a lot of reasons for that. One is there's a lot of law enforcement here, a lot of federal agencies. I mean, Customs and ICE and Border Patrol and ATF. I mean, they're just all over the place. State agencies, county agencies, local agencies. And as a result of that, the collaborative effort that we have between law enforcement agencies and working with the citizens that we serve, this community has been designated as one of the safest in the United States. For the last 3 years, there's a publication called CQ Press, and they analyze crime in cities throughout the nation. In the last 3 years, El Paso has been designated as the safest large city over 500,000. And then before that, we'd been the second or third safest city for like 12 years. We would bounce back and forth. So we look about how all that plays together. Because we do work together, and a lot of issues cross over. For instance, bank robbery. Bank robbery is a federal offense, but it's also a state crime. So we work with the FBI when those things occur to try to bring those people to justice, right? But we also understand there's some areas of the law that are distinctly ours and that are distinctly the federal government's. And that's where I was talking about, from the federal perspective, immigration is their issue. Traffic violations are our issue. You typically don't see the Border Patrol pulling people over for speeding, right? So there's some things that we can work together on, and some of the bigger ones, by the way, is like drug smuggling, human trafficking. Those are issues we work together. But there's some that are distinct between agencies that they're responsible for. Now, you've noticed, I'm sure, over the last couple years, Border Patrol has seen substantial increases in staffing. And they've done a great job of implementing programs along the border to stop illegal immigration, to stop drug smuggling, to stop human trafficking, and to work with communities in regards to security in our border cities and border towns. And we know too, by the way, that the vast majority of undocumented immigrants come over here for economic reasons. Certainly there are those that come over here to do us harm. Again, the drug smugglers, the human traffickers, people that would come to commit crimes. But the vast majority come over here for economic reasons. And as a result of those issues, Border Patrol apprehensions have decreased significantly over the last several years, okay? This keeps popping up. It first started when the Border Patrol was short-staffed. They were looking for a fast infusion of personnel to help secure the border, and they were trying to get local and county law enforcement to help stop immigration. And it's come up again. There's an act before Congress called the SAFE Act where they're trying to get local and county law enforcement involved in immigration enforcement. And let me just talk about that right now, and it'll show up on the slides too. I'm not supportive of that. I'm not pro-illegal immigration. I think people should follow. I'm a law enforcement officer, and I've been doing it for years and years. And I think people should follow the rules. And if a person wants to come over here to be a citizen, there are rules to follow. But I also recognize that last slide when it talked about most people come over here for economic reasons, that there are opportunities for people to come over here and work. And that benefits them, and it benefits us. And I think the biggest problem that we're having is that we don't shuffle out those people. In other words, we've got Border Patrol watching everything, when really, if we could shuffle out the people coming over here for economic reasons by giving them work visas, they could concentrate on the ones that are really trying to do us harm. The ones bringing drugs over here that are ending up in the hands of our kids. The ones that are involved in human smuggling, that people end up involved in prostitution and things of that nature. Terrorists, we've really got to shuffle them out and concentrate the resources where they need to be concentrated. And you've heard me say many times that I don't believe that local and county law enforcement should be enforcing federal immigration law. That's because not only is it a federal responsibility, but I want my citizens, the people I work for, to trust me, that when you call me, I'm going to go and help you no matter what your status is. And I don't want my officers stopping people on the street because they think they're here illegally, and I don't even know what those reasons would be, that you've got brown skin, that you may not be dressed so nice. I don't even know. To me, it would be racial profiling, and that's illegal, by the way, in Texas, and rightfully so. And to have a police officer stop you and ask you if you're here illegally or not, it's just not appropriate. And a citizen should be offended for that to occur. And so those are the reasons I'm really against that. You know, the Border Patrol has the training. They can take on the liability and responsibility. They have the expertise. They know what they're dealing with. Local and county officers have way too much to deal with to take on that added burden. Okay, can you read that one? That's just what I told you. Yeah, those are the test questions, so you need to get out a pencil and paper. All right, so we talked about local and county law enforcement don't have the resources. It's complicated law. Who takes on the responsibility, the liability if a mistake is made, and it undermines the trust and cooperation between local law enforcement and the communities we serve. We're worried about public safety in our communities. We want people to feel safe. We don't want people to hesitate to call us because they're afraid we're going to ask about their immigration status. We want to know what's going on. We want to know who's doing bad things. If a criminal's in a neighborhood doing bad things to an undocumented immigrant, they're probably committing crimes against citizens too, and we want to stop those people. So we want to protect our witnesses, our complainants, without regard to whether they're here illegally or not. So does that work in El Paso? Well, there's the crime stats year to date. That's in the city. 8 homicides so far in a city of 650,000. Compare that to other large cities like that across the nation. No one comes close. That's just amazing. Oh, by the way, 8's bad. I don't mean to say that. Even 1's bad, but I'm saying, unfortunately, in urban societies, we do have crime, and El Paso's no exception to that. You know, we do have crime in the city. You have to be careful. You've got to protect yourself. You're responsible for yourself first, your family, your friends, your neighborhood. And, of course, we're here to help you, but ultimately, we're all responsible for our own safety. But look at that, aggravated assaults down, assaults, burglaries, larcenies, everything's down. Sexual assaults are even year to date. And that's on top of a continual decrease over the last 15 years in El Paso. And this is in the county. We're experiencing an increase in burglaries, but everything else is down. And we've seen substantial decreases every year. So this notion that illegal immigrants are over here and they're criminals and they're committing crimes against us is just not true. El Paso has a large immigrant population. And we don't see the type of crimes that other cities do that don't have large immigration population. That's pretty amazing, isn't that? It's not amazing to me. It's because we have a very good, law-abiding community here. All right. So there's this new Senate bill. And of course, we all know the federal government's in great fiscal shape, right? They got, right. They don't overspend. We don't owe any debt. Well, since 1993, the budget of the Border Patrol has gone from $363 million to more than $3.5 billion. There was an article in USA Today, and I didn't get interviewed for that, but Sheriff Arvin West did. I don't know if you know him. He's in the next county over, Hudspeth. And he told them that the Border Patrol now are tripping over each other. There's so many of them. And it's true. It's true. The Border Patrol is a big organization right now. But they want to add another $46.3 billion. Billion dollars. They're just going to print that money up, I guess, and double the size of Border Patrol, adding another 19,000 Border Patrol officers. And you know what? I don't want to be critical of the Border Patrol because they do a good job. And we work really close with them on issues of those things I mentioned, drug smuggling and human trafficking. So I don't want to be critical. But even in El Paso, there's some things that they do that makes me wonder. Like they're involved in a lot of community programs. And it's good that people trust the Border Patrol and things of that nature, but in reality, they're supposed to be on the border protecting us. We can handle the community stuff, but they want to double it. They want to construct another 700 miles of fencing, double fencing along the border. That's just what we need here in El Paso, right? When they put up that last fence, they put it next to 2 or 3 fences as it was. And now they want to put another one. And then additional costs for technology, aircraft, drones to provide 24-hour surveillance in the border region. And what they've done, by the way, that portion of that Senate bill was added to force the federal government to completely secure the border before they're willing to even entertain citizenship for the the undocumented immigrants that are here today. So they're trying to push this through, to force it through, telling us that we won't even consider citizenship until this occurs, and this is what the cost is going to be. My opinion, I think it's unnecessary. I think it's a waste of money, and I think the U.S. can do a lot better job with those billions of dollars in addressing a lot of the issues in our community that have gone unaddressed for years. I don't think we need more Border Patrol along the border. I don't know about you. But we do need long-term goals. We need a vision of what the border is going to look like. What's the expectations of what this border is going to look like 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road? And you know, they really need to be clear and consistent. And they really need to talk to the people along the border. You know, the vast majority of congressmen and women that are making decisions are not on the border. They have no idea. Oh, and they'll come here and take pictures with us and make it look like they know and they're interested, and then they go back and try to pass these laws that are really just, I just don't understand them, and I'm not sure most of us do. But that's it. I have one more comment to make in regard to the last presentation that you saw on video. He was talking about children. And I think children are, of course, well, obviously children are our future. I'm a father of 2 myself. And we can learn a lot about life from watching our children. It's funny how they learn from us, but I think we learn more from them. And one day I saw these 3 kids and overheard them discussing on the schoolyard, bragging about their fathers. And one of the kids says, "You will not believe my dad's so great. He scribbles a few words on a piece of paper. He calls it a poem, and he makes $100. And it's like, wow. So now, of course, there's a competition, right? So the next kid's, well, you won't believe what my father does. He writes a few words on a piece of paper, calls it a song, and makes $1,000. And of course, the last kid, not wanting to be outdone, says, well, I've got you 2 beat. My father writes a few words on a piece of paper. He calls it a sermon, and it takes 4 people to pick up the money. Thank you.